I'd like to call this meeting to order. It's the regular City Council meeting of September 12, 2016. The time is shortly after 7:30. Can we begin with the roll call?
Yes. Mayor Pro Tem Bliss.
Here.
Councilman Clark.
Here.
Councilman Corbett.
Here.
Councilman Gettings.
Here.
Councilwoman Scott. Here. Councilman Soltis.
Here.
Mayor Hartwell.
I'm here, thank you. Tonight we'll have an invocation presented by Councilman Rich Clark. Would you please stand now if you're able and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Heavenly Father, we stand before you with the hands, minds, and hearts that help us to put our hands at your service through the work of our council, our minds to understand the best ways to help those less fortunate, and we ask that you help all our hearts to inspire the actions our minds conceive. Amen.
Thank you. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. Approval of the agenda. Are there any additions or deletions? Hearing none, we'll go on to presentations. We have 3 this evening. The first is a certificate of presentation to be issued to Lowe's, and we have the store manager, Rob Spadowski, with us tonight.
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, sir. Whereas Madison Heights resident Frederick Ward is a 8-year combat Vietnam War veteran who relies heavily on a motorized scooter for mobility, and whereas the Veterans Administration does not supply veterans with portable handicap accessible ramps, and whereas the Madison Heights Lowe's Home Improvement Store has a charity with a focus on United States veterans. And whereupon, upon learning of Mr. Ward's needs and at the request of Councilman David Soltis, store manager Rob Spadowski of the Madison Heights Lowe's store facilitated the donation and installation of a 10-foot portable aluminum ramp for Mr. Ward valued at $738. And whereas the donated ramp is collapsible and light enough to carry, attaches to the porch, and features a winter tread for traction in any weather. Now therefore be it resolved that the Mayor and Council extend their heartfelt thanks to Mr. Rob Spadowski and the Madison Heights Lowe's Home Improvement Store for helping to increase the mobility, access, and safety of one of our cherished veterans, and extends this certificate as a symbol of our appreciation for their civic-minded contributions to the citizens of Madison Heights.
Mr. Spadowski? Do you have any comments to say? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to Lowe's. Next presentation this evening, presentation number 2, swearing in of a police officer reserve.
Yes, Your Honor. I'll turn it over to Chief Hayes.
Good evening, Your Honor, and esteemed members of council. This evening we'll be swearing in a new reserve officer, Mr. Eric Kerr. Currently resides in Rochester Hills with his wife of 17 years, Shelley, along with their 2 sons and a daughter. Mr. Kerr holds a bachelor's degree in engineering and an EMBA from Michigan State University. He is a graduate of the Schoolcraft College Police Reserve Officer Training Academy, and he spent 3 years as an auxiliary officer in the city of Wayne. Mr. Kerr has worked for the Lear Corporation for the past 23 years, and he spent several years working international assignments. Mr. Kerr's ongoing participation in various Metro Detroit charitable activities motivated him to explore more opportunities to directly support his neighboring communities, while at the same time making the most of his interests, training, and experience. Mr. Kerr looks forward to serving and giving back to the city of Madison Heights, where his son has the privilege of attending Bishop Foley High School. Mr. Kerr, if you'd please meet the city clerk and take the oath of office for the position of reserve officer.
Do solemnly swear
solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Michigan,
the Constitution of the State of Michigan,
and the Charter of the City of Madison Heights,
and the Charter of the City of Madison Heights,
that I will endeavor to secure
that I will endeavor to secure
and maintain an honest and efficient
and maintain an honest and efficient
administration of the affairs
administration of the affairs
of the City of Madison Heights,
of the City of Madison Heights,
free from partisan control,
free from partisan control,
and that I will faithfully fulfill
and that I will faithfully fulfill
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
of Police Reserve Officer
of Police Reserve Officer
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Reserve Officer Kerr. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chief Haynes. The next presentation this evening, number 3, is a resolution commemorating September 11th, 2001.
Yes, Your Honor, we have a resolution requested by Council Members Soltis and Corbett, and I believe Councilman Soltis would like to read that with Council's indulgence.
Yeah. Good evening. Thank you for coming today. This is a resolution that we wanted to put forth to not forget what happened on 9/11. And also, I want to introduce the officers that are all here in spirit of this. Can you all stand for us, please? Please. I just want to... Thank you for coming. All right, so this is kind of long, so just kind of bear with me. Whereas on September 11th, 2001, terrorists hijacked 4 civilian aircraft, crashing 2 of them into the towers of the World Trade Center in New York City, a third of the Pentagon near Washington, D.C., and a 4th was prevented, also being used as a weapon against America by brave passengers who placed their country above their own lives. And whereas thousands of innocent Americans were killed and injured as a result of these attacks, including passengers, crews of 4 aircraft, workers in the World Trade Center and the Pentagon, rescue workers and bystanders. Whereas 15 years later, the country continues to, after forever, mourn the tragic loss and honor the memory of. And whereas these attacks destroyed both towers of the World Trade Center, as well as adjacent buildings, and seriously damaged the Pentagon. And whereas these attacks were by far the deadliest terrorist attacks ever launched against the United States, and by targeting symbols of America's strength and success, we intended to assail the principles, values, and freedoms of the United States and the American people. Our nation did not weaken in resolve. Whereas memorials have been constructed to honor the victims of these attacks at the Pentagon and the World Trade Center grounds, so that Americans and people from all the world can visit, mourn the loss, and pay tribute to the heroic actions of sacrifices of those who've served the community and the country in the years since the attacks. Whereas the terrorist attacks have occurred around the world on September 11, 2001, remind us of the hateful and inhumanity of terrorism and the ongoing threat it poses to freedom, justice, and the rule of law. And whereas the United States, law enforcement, and intelligence agencies and allies of the United States around the world have worked together to detect and disrupt terrorist networks and numerous terror plots since September 11, 2001, and have ensured that no attacks have been carried out on American soil since that day. Whereas the nation, indebted to the brave military, intelligence, law enforcement, and civilian personnel serving in Afghanistan, Iraq, and elsewhere in advancement of the United States' national interests. And whereas thousands of families have lost loved ones in defense of freedom, liberty, and against tyranny of terror. And whereas the passage of 15 years has not diminished the pain caused by the senseless loss and nearly 3,000 people killed. Now therefore be resolved that the City Council of the of the City of Madison Heights recognizes September 11th as a day of solemn commemoration. Number 2, extends again its deepest sympathies to the thousands of innocent victims of September 11th terrorist attacks, to their families, friends, and loved ones. Number 3, honors the heroism and sacrifices of the United States military, the civilian personnel, and their families who have sacrificed so much, including their lives, their health, in defense of their country. Number 4, credits the heroism of first responders, law enforcement personnel, state and local officials, volunteers, and others who aided the victims in these attacks, and in doing so bravely risked their own lives and long-term health. Number 5, commends the military and intelligence personnel involved in the removal of Osama bin Laden. And number 6, reaffirms that the American people will never forget the sacrifices made on September 11, 2001, and will never bow to terrorist demands. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Soltis. Would Chief Haynes please accept the resolution? Thank you. We move on. Item A, business licenses initial. We have 4 applicants tonight. What's the wish of City Council?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Clerk.
I'd make a motion to approve business license initial number 1, Therapeutic Solutions Incorporated, a physical therapy facility at 31131 DeQuinder Road. This is a new business to the city. Number 2, Victoria's Jewels, a jewelry shop at 28731 DeQuinder Road, which is also a new business. Number 3, Hookahs International, Inc., a hookah and cigar lounge at 1429 West 14 Mile Road. And that is a new business also. Number 4, Uval Group, Casa Real, a restaurant at 31313 DeQuinder Road. These are subject to all compliances with the all department and ordinance requirements.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Corbett?
Support.
Thank you. The motion made by Councilman Clark, seconded by Councilman Corbett, to approve all business licenses initial as recited, subject to compliance with all departmental and ordinance requirements. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. We don't have business licenses, temporary, seasonal, or non-commercial, so we'll go to public hearing, B1, special approval number 1606. Mr. Myers?
Yes, Your Honor. Special approval has been requested by Salvatore Scalapini, located at 1650 East 12 Mile Road, to allow outside seating under Section 10-319, subsection 4 of the zoning ordinance. This location is currently zoned B1 and is being remodeled. As part of that remodeling, Salvatore Scalapini is now seeking outdoor seating for 8 patrons on a patio in front of the proposed facility. Parking meets the minimum requirements of the zoning ordinance. The proposed hours of operation are Monday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. and on Sunday from 1 p.m. to 9 p.m. The Site Plan Review Committee has reviewed the site plan and has no additional comments to address.
Thank you. Is there a public hearing? Okay. I open a public hearing first. Would anyone like to address this specific issue on special approval regarding outdoor seating? I'll close the public hearing on this issue. What's the wish of City Council?
Your Honor.
Mr. Corbett.
Sir, I move that the council grant approval, special approval, for the outdoor seating at an existing restaurant located at 1650 East 12 Mile Road, Madison Heights.
Very well. Is there a second?
Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Scott?
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Councilman Corbett, seconded by Councilwoman Scott, to move to grant special approval for outdoor seating at the existing restaurant at 1650 East 12 Mile Road. Is there any discussion from council? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next public hearing, B2, is special approval request 1605.
Special approval has been requested at the vacant parking lot at 800 East 14 Mile Road to allow outdoor sales of pumpkins and Christmas trees. Special approval is required for outdoor sales in the M1 district. This location is a vacant portion of the parking lot for the Shannon Precision Fastener Company. The applicant proposes to sell pumpkins, straw bales, corn stalks, and Christmas trees from September 15th, 2016 to December 20th, 2016. An 1,800 square foot tent is proposed and may be permitted as part of special approval. The parking for the site exceeds the minimum requirements of the zoning ordinance, and the proposed hours of operation are Monday through Sunday from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. The Site Plan Review Committee has reviewed the site plan and has no additional comments to address.
Thank you. I open a public hearing on special approval 1605. Would anyone like to address City Council on outdoor sales of pumpkins and Christmas trees? Okay, I'll close the public hearing. What's the wish of City Council?
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Scott.
move for special approval of number 16-05 on 800 East 14 Mile Road, outdoor sales of pumpkins and Christmas trees from September 15th to December 20th, 2016.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Soltis?
Second, please.
Thank you. Council, a motion made by Councilwoman Scott, seconded by Councilman Soltis, to approve special approval 1605, 800 East 14 Mile Road, outdoor sales of pumpkins and Christmas trees. Is there any discussion from City Council? All right. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion carries. Reports on an agenda of interest to parties in the audience. Is there any report on tonight's agenda that someone wants to be brought forward now? Sir. Officer Malik, good evening.
Good evening. As Mr. Hartwell said, my name is Ed Malik. I'm a police officer with the city of Madison Heights. I've been here for 23 and a half years, and I'm also here with several of my colleagues, a few on duty, several off duty.
Well, I'm just, I appreciate that you're speaking now. Would you like us to officially consider or listen to report D1?
Yes, I'm sorry, I would. I'm here to address the fence issue.
Okay. With council's permission, this would be an appropriate time. We will move to report D1, a report from the city manager regarding the police department perimeter fence. Should we do the report first? Officer Malik, would you mind if we officially recite our report, and then I will give the floor to you?
Not at all. Yes.
Okay, so right now we're jumping the gun. We're going to report D1. Mr. Myers?
Yes, Your Honor. As requested by Councilman Soltis and Mayor Hartwell, council is scheduled to consider a perimeter security fence around the rear or north lot behind the police station. In the event the council desires to approve the police department perimeter fence, the council's recent action to increase the city's self-insurance retention level has resulted in a one-time general fund savings in our insurance premium that would be available this fiscal year to fund the fence. Should council wish to move forward, the appropriate action would be to approve a supplemental appropriation of $50,000 in the general fund, which would be in the form of a $50,000 increase to the police department improvements account and a $50,000 decrease to the insurance and bonds account, which would cover the police chief's recommended option of a 6-foot black vinyl coated fence, pedestrian gate, and cantilever gates, vehicle gates, electrical work, and key fobs. As a reminder for council, a 5-vote supermajority is required for an appropriation of funds, and if approved by council, the staff will proceed with the bid process, culminating with a future agenda item for council to award the purchase. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. What's the wish of City Council?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Soltis?
I'd like to make the motion that we approve the general fund supplemental appropriation in this current fiscal year for $50,000 for the purchase and installation of the police department perimeter fence.
Thank you. And just to clarify, this will specifically increase the police department improvements account by $50,000 and decrease the insurance account by $50,000?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Soltis, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Okay, is there a second to that motion, Your Honor?
Mayor?
Mr. Bliss?
Support.
Okay. City Council, would you like to hear from Officer Malik first?
Mr. Mayor, all public comment might be appropriate here.
Okay, yeah, let's open a public hearing, and I interrupted Officer Malik first, so I'll give you the gavel first if you'd like to address the public. This will be on the subject of the perimeter fence. And folks, we'll have a general meeting open to the public in a few minutes. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Again, thank you for the opportunity tonight, Mr. Myers and the rest of council. As I stated, I'm here tonight to address the fence issue. I'm here again with several of my colleagues because, again, we feel that there's an urgent need to secure the rear lot of the police station. Unfortunately, we're living in a new and changing world. To put it bluntly, the respect for police officers and the difficult job we do has reached a low that we haven't seen in quite some time. Police officers across the country have been under attack. The recent ambush of 5 police officers in Dallas, 3 in Baton Rouge, is a stark reminder of the anti-police sentiment that has risen in this country. To date, we have had 38 police officers killed in the line of duty just by gunfire alone. That's almost a 60% increase over this same time period of last year. We've had numerous others wounded or injured while performing their duties. As a city and a department, we must reevaluate how we operate. Safety and security must remain our top priority. As we've seen in the tragedies of Dallas and Baton Rouge, one individual with a high-powered weapon intent on doing injury or harm can cause significant destruction and loss of life. We start and end our shifts every day in that rear parking lot. It's not uncommon to have several officers congregating in one area at one time. During these times, it's also not uncommon to be approached by citizens walking through the lot. Many have no idea or choose to ignore the fact that our lot is posted for police personnel only. It should also be noted that in years past, we have had citizens and we have caught citizens sitting on patrol cars, sitting on personal vehicles. We have students and public, the general public, regularly walk in between the cars, parked or otherwise. And even a few years back, we caught an individual inside of a police car. Citizens currently have unhindered access to our lot, our vehicles, our equipment, and our station. Now, I want to point out one important thing. We have a strong relationship with our public. Police officers in this city appreciate the public, and we appreciate the support that we get from the public. We recently had an open house 4 or 5 weeks ago, which was a tremendous success. We had several people coming through our department. We were able to meet several individuals. So this isn't an anti-public statement. This isn't an anti-public thing. It's a security thing. And it's not just security for the officers at stake. It's also security and safety for the general public and citizens as well. Right now, for instance, anyone can enter our lot totally undetected and disable every police car in our fleet by simply slashing one tire. That same person would then be free to cause whatever damage or destruction throughout the city, completely aware that they have effectively hindered or possibly even prevented us from responding. Their targets could include anything from schools, churches, places of business, or homes within the city. Consider the public outcry and anger if something just as I outlined happened and we were not able to perform our duties simply because we decided not to secure our back lot. Research shows that criminals will take the easiest means required to commit a crime. In other words, if a criminal wants to break into a house or a business, and their target has no known security, it's poorly lit, maybe doesn't have a perimeter fence or gate, they're going to choose that over something that has everything I just explained. The same thing can be said about fencing our rear lot. A secure lot greatly improves our odds against an individual intent on harming the police or doing damage to police property. As I stated earlier, we are in a new time. In all my years as an officer, like I stated, I've been here 23 and a half years. Several of those I've acted as union president. I've never once appeared before council to address any issue. I'm here tonight because, quite frankly, until now, there's never been an issue as important as this one. In fact, I can state with all certainty that securing the rear lot is the #1 safety concern and issue that every officer has within our department. I believe, council, you all were presented recently with a petition that was signed by every officer and service aide within the department in support of installing a fence, and I have a copy of that right here. I believe you all had. This was totally 100% unanimous in support of securing our rear lot. Now, everyone here will acknowledge that simply adding a fence is not going to guarantee complete safety. We know that. We know that it's inherent with this job. But what it will do, however, is act as a major deterrent against potential attack from those who wish to do harm to the police or to its property. So I appreciate, Mr. Myers and council, your willingness to consider this issue. And I especially want to thank Chief Haynes for his 100% total support of this. I know he put a lot of effort and time into researching this, and I want him to know that his efforts amongst the personnel and his officers is appreciated and is not going unnoticed. Ladies and gentlemen of council, the time to act is now. We cannot allow aesthetics, public perception, or costs to influence this decision. We are asking tonight that you approve the fence for its immediate construction to begin as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Officer Malik. You know, I don't think it's lost on me or anyone else that during your report, 2 officers received a call and rushed out of this building. As we're afforded the luxury of debating whether to sell Christmas trees, your 2 colleagues ran out of this building to respond to God only knows what. Before I open it to council comment, would anyone else in the public like to address this specific issue of a police fence? Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Council. Doug McLean, retired police officer, City of Madison Heights. Also, I'm the chair for the Madison Heights Crime Commission. This was presented to us a couple of months ago, and we voted unanimously to place the fence in the back of the station. Times are changing. Don't like to see it happen, but things do happen. There's a lot of valuable equipment behind the station by the radio tower. That's behind the station for communications for the police department. Also, the police cars that are not in use during shift are parked there. Things can happen to them also. And the officers' cars are privately parked back here also. Thanks very much for your consideration.
Thank you, sir. Would anyone else like to address council on this issue? Please come up now. Good evening, sir. Welcome.
Hello, I'm Paul Sanders. I live at 26433 Rialto Street. I think it's a great idea. I just drove back when I came to the meeting today. There's things to stop people driving out of the lot, but it's wide open beside where the fence is, the small little openings. I think it'd be a great idea for the safety if they could put something up there to protect the cars, the police cars, and the policemen's cars. When I was a kid in junior high school, we learned a poem, "Good fences make good neighbors." It doesn't have to be an ugly fence, but it can serve This is a line. This is where your police are. Yeah, we all like to say sometimes the police are bad. Yeah, sometimes they are. But the majority of them are very good people. And the fact that their machines that they use are wide open and their vehicles, it doesn't take a little bit much for people to get a little silly and to destroy good machines and good equipment. Whatever it's worth, I think it would be a great idea to enclose that somehow. It doesn't have to look barbaric, but it can be functional. Once again, good fences make good neighbors.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to address council on this issue? Hi, welcome. How are you?
Pretty good. Good evening. My name is Janet Eggert. I'm a resident of over 15 years in the city. It is a great pleasure to be here for the first time in your meeting and to stand in support of our officers. There is no greater time than now to make sure that they are protected, coming in and leaving, and having a fence in our day and time with so much happening. This is the time to stand for our officers, and I stand in support of my family, my husband, Officer John Eggert, and my children to say that defense is necessary for our city and for our officers. And thank you so much for the wonderful job you do here in the city. We appreciate you, and God bless and always.
Thank you. I do want to make a comment. I really do appreciate how professional this audience is, because I know there are opinions on both sides. And so I do appreciate, there's no applause or jeering. I think that's very thoughtful and professional of everyone. So, if you do hear something you don't like, please, contain yourself and maybe speak up next. But I do appreciate the professionalism of this debate. Sir, you're next.
Good evening. My name is Craig Brundage. I live at 28549 Denise Street. I'm here to speak for the support of the fence, the police department. We go to bed each night and we lock our doors and secure our vehicles as we best can. But for some reason, we're asking our police department not to have full and complete opportunity to secure everything that is at their disposal. We just had a reading of the 9/11 terrorist attack, and while we would never, ever want to see something like that here, we know that there are people in this world that would cause harm to first responders, our law enforcement, if given the opportunity. Besides that, we are in a society right now that, attacks and ambushes have occurred on our law enforcement, on our police officers, and their respect and their regard for our officers have just dwindled away. Mayor Hartwell, when you were running for mayor, you met me on my front porch, and I remember talking with you about several issues in our city, and one was law enforcement and the strengthening and support of law enforcement and really all of our first responders. I just think that is key to what we have here. And as a citizen, I would just really like to speak up for the approval of this for security. As Officer Ed said, it's not, I'm sure, going to be a fail-safe, but it certainly is a deterrent. Keeps people from being able to get to vehicles and even to rush a back door. And so I would just want to speak up for approval of this fence as a citizen.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you very much. Would anyone else like to address this specific issue?
Can we take a mic to this gentleman? Does that?
Can I see a raise of hands? Anyone else attempting to approach the podium now or is unable to approach the podium that would like to speak on this issue? Okay, I think they're leaving. I think the gentleman's exiting, actually. Okay, so I don't see anyone asking to speak to the City Council. So, City Council, do you have any comments?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Clark, please.
The only thing that I didn't like about this is it should have been a budget issue. That instead of coming to be middle of the year or the budget session, we're giving $50,000, which we hadn't planned on. Now, if this money was spent for some type of equipment, when the officers were on duty on the road, I would not hesitate to say yes immediately. Ambush is usually a well-thought-out plan. No fence is going to stop it. Most are on the road when an officer lets their guard down. By putting a fence up, we are showing ISIS or any other group that we are afraid of them, and that's just what they want. And reluctantly, I'll vote yes for it, but it still should have been to me a budget item. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you for the comments. Anyone else in City Council would like to address this? Mr. Corbett.
I think I can dovetail with what Mr. Clark said, because I said the exact same thing a meeting or two ago about the process. I don't know, and I really don't know. I don't think anybody on the council has ever necessarily opposed this fence. But it is a lot of money, $50,000, and so we have some found money now, but that can disappear just as quickly. But I think what finally, what turned me from an on the fence to a yes vote was simply the times we're in, as a few of the people have mentioned, especially over the past few weeks, few months in particular. The society has just gotten awfully aggressive towards officers. I guess it's always been that way, and I'm sure that the officers could tell me it's always been that way. But it certainly is getting pretty obvious and pretty over the top at this point when officers are being targeted specifically for their uniform, is serving as a target for some of these clowns in the buildings and so on. So it seems to me a reasonable step to take at this point. Hasn't been mentioned yet, but I want to single out Mr. Soltis. He has pushed on this for months. And I probably I don't know if I was the hardest yes vote he tracked down, but he certainly worked on it. And but I'm glad he did, and I'm glad that we're in agreement this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from City Council?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Gettings?
I think this is a good idea. I really thought about it a lot over the weekend. I just hope that we don't get into a habit of putting things, out there and voting on items that we didn't really put at the beginning of the budget. Not saying that I'm against the fence. One thing I'd like to ask of Chief Haynes is possibly when we do have the festival, if we might be able to discuss keeping both fences maybe open so we have that nice flow back and forth. That way you might save on the lawn of people cutting out in front or behind. It just seems to be such an open atmosphere for the festivals that I hate to take away from that, but I understand the idea of the fence. And I went down and looked at Huffman Park at that fence, which is the more expensive fence in the proposal, and I think the chain link would be the way to go. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Chief Haynes, did you have a comment?
No, I was just going to answer his question, and I think that's something that we'll have to work on. My understanding, we're going to have, if we get the fence, we would have a pedestrian gate at each end. But I believe there's some safety issues with allowing the electronic gates to be left in an open position. Okay. So it's just something we'll have to work on as we go.
Thanks, Chief.
Anything else, Mr. Gettings?
No, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other council comments?
Your Honor.
Mr. Bliss?
I actually believe that this is the system working. I love the fact that staff was able to identify budget savings, and we're able to direct those savings towards officer safety in a climate that we're living in. I think this is exactly the way that the system is designed. Is we budgeted based on the knowledge that we had. Times changed. We were able to identify budgetary savings, and we were able to direct those accordingly, provided that there's a supermajority of 5 votes on this issue. I'm of the mindset that we should be looking for as much budgetary savings as we can to devote to projects like this that are critical particularly when times come up. I think if we stay and just state that, oh, well, we approved the budget, there should be no change afterwards, I do respect that opinion because a lot of effort goes into that budget. I mean, a lot of effort. I read every page and every line item. I vet each and every line item individually, and we've had those discussions at the budget meetings where we did vet those line items. We go page by page, line item by line item, and discuss it. So I appreciate the amount of time that was put in, but I also appreciate that things change, and as we're able to identify savings, I think in this case particularly, officer safety is worth amending the budget and redirecting savings instead of waiting until the next budget to apply those same savings just down the road. The only thing that I would like for Chief Haynes to elaborate on, because I don't think many in the public will read the report, but in the report I asked, because we've identified this much money towards officer safety, is the fence the top priority in officer safety? And Chief Haynes did concur that the fence was the top priority, but I just want him to go into a little detail as to why the fence is the top priority for police safety to redirect this budget surplus.
Chief Haynes.
Thank you. The first thing that I did was I sat down with our police officers union. And the union was gracious enough to go out to their members, have a meeting, and discuss what they felt were top officer safety concerns as it stands right now. There is a strong difference between the I don't want to say the attitude, but the demeanor and how you carry yourself when you're behind the police station as opposed to when you're going out on the road to a run that you know could be dangerous. When you get into that police car and you leave the parking lot, you know that you're going to something very important, and you may have to deal with the unknown. You're going to be dealing with that. As a safety concern at the parking lot behind the police station, it's a place where the officers, as Officer Ed Malik said, they gather. We have shift change 3 times a day. There's 5 to 10 officers at any given time that are coming in and out of that parking lot, and they're not prepared. They're not looking for that incident to happen right there in the parking lot. So in speaking with them and them speaking with all of their officers, they all concurred that this was the most important thing that they're looking at right now. We looked at other things such as bulletproof vests. We looked at the possibilities of adding panels to the police car doors. And again, what kept coming back to be the center of all the attention is this is what the officers really believe that they need, and this is what I believe they need.
Thank you, sir. Chief Haynes,
Yes.
What have other cities, our peers, considered or executed in regards to officer safety? Have there been other fences, or I think I saw one department was considering underground parking?
Yes, the city of Royal Oak is currently in the planning stages of a new police department and a new city center. They are considering one of 2 options. If budget allows, they would like to have an underground parking garage where all employees and police cars of the police department would be stored underground in a safe and secure environment. Another one that I alluded to in the report was the city of Midland. Although it is a different situation, they border, instead of bordering a city park, they border a industrial section, actually has a Kroger store in it. They actually have a cement wall that goes all the way around the police department parking lot. And they're looking to add gates similar to what we're asking for this parking lot, because they have found people coming into their lot and attempting to do things with their vehicles. Further than that, the city of Warren does have all of their cars contained in an underground security garage. And currently, right now, before the new station is built, Royal Oak has a very tight tree line fence, sort of a natural fence that goes around their parking lot now, that anybody walking there, you're not even able to see into the police lot, let alone, walk into it. So.
Thank you, sir. Any other city council comment?
Mr. Mayor?
Ms. Scott, please.
I would like to thank the police officers for coming forward and letting us know of this need that I might consider an emergency situation, because we do have the right, when we have the budget, to review emergencies and perhaps consider them as an essential to our votes and the money that we allocate. I've known Corey Haynes, our chief, ever since he came on the force, and I greatly respect him, and I'm very glad he's now our chief, as I saw him climb the ladder and I saw his concern for our city and his dedication. Officer Malik, I do respect you as well, and thank you for coming forward to talk. And I do want to reiterate the fact that this is the first time that the police officers have actually come forward to us and told us what they need. Normally, our city manager handles department heads, but I welcome all the input that department heads give me because they know their department better than I do. And I trust what their judgment is, and I try and comply and let them know how important their department heads are to me and how their departments are, because they see it as we don't. We don't have the advantage of being in a police officer situation all the time. And I know that that is their job to protect us, and I would trust any one of them. What finally convinced me, if even I had any regrets or concern, was seeing this list of all of our respective police officers signing this and wanting this. This is something they want. This is something they feel will help. And I also was very eager to hear from the Crime Commission because they study things like this better than we can as a council. And they do have input from citizens all over the city. So I am very much in favor, and I want to thank the police officers for coming forward and letting us know about the situation.
Thank you. I'm going to ask for a roll call vote, but are any closing comments from City Council?
Yeah, I would.
Please.
Your Honor. So I appreciate all the officers coming here and the public for this. I think it's an important issue. I mean, I had this long speech, but, you know, I think it's better to be brief. I don't want to talk about all the bad guys and threats and everything like that. You know, I want this security fence because the officers do. That's it. Right there. That's enough for me. As far as I'm concerned, they know more than I ever would. They are the potential one. They are the ones who potentially put their lives in jeopardy every time they come to work. To me, they're like military heroes. They're here to protect and serve. They're the ones that see the worst in people, and then the general public, fortunately, does not see. To me, I think, as a community, sometimes we really don't know who they are. The only time we really interact with them, right, is either you get into trouble or they're getting us out of trouble. In either case, we really don't know the personal sacrifices that they made for this greater good for the community. But I found over the years, they're just like us. They have families, they have friends, they have struggles, they have triumphs. But at the end of the day, they just want what's best for the community that they serve and work in. So I feel tonight, at least we can do this for them. Give them the same respect and protection that they give us every day.
Thank you,
Mr.
sir.
Mayor?
Mr. Clark.
I would like to add one thing.
Yes.
I may not think I know what I'm talking about when I read what I did, but I was a reserve for 24 years, starting back in the early 70s. And I have rode with every special unit there was numerous times. I've been on special stakeouts with the regulars many times. So I do have an idea of what they go through.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And we honor and respect your service. Thank you, Rich. Any other closing comments from council before we vote? All right, I'm asking for a roll call vote, and the matter before council was a motion made by Councilman Soltis, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Bliss, to move, move to approve the supplemental appropriation to increase the police department improvement account by $50,000 and decrease the insurance account by $50,000 for the recommended fence.
Correct, Your Honor, for the purchase and installation of the fence, and we will come back for the bid, with the bid award.
As he said. We'll do a roll call vote and signify by saying yes or no. Please.
Councilman Corbett.
Yes.
Councilman Gettings.
Yes.
Councilwoman Scott.
Yes.
Councilman Soltis.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Bliss.
Yes.
Councilman Clark.
Yes.
And Mayor Hartwell.
I vote yes. The motion carries. Thank you for your service, men and women. Next on the agenda is meeting open to the public. This is the general opportunity for any general subject. If you'd like to address City Council, Well, if you do like to address City Council, it's helpful but not required if you give your name and address. And please be so kind to limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. Good evening. Welcome. How are you?
I'm Gloria Moore. I live at 27368 Dartmouth, and it looks like everybody's taking off and leaving. Friends of the Madison Heights Area Senior Citizens is going to have its another third Tuesday meeting, September 20th at 7 o'clock at Wilkinson. Beverages is going to be provided, and everyone is welcomed. Also, Cambridge East Nursing Home is looking for volunteers. So we'll pass on any information to Cambridge Nursing Home if anybody wants to volunteer. Thank you.
Thank you. Meeting's open to the public.
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Joanne Staba. I live at 113 West Dallas. I would like to see if the City Council could look into and inform me why. I've lived in this house for 53 years. We've always had street sweeping twice a month or every other week. I've had to send emails to the DPW asking them why they have not been there in over a month. I just sent a new email yesterday. I don't know if it's harvest season for the squirrels or whatever, but I sat and watched them shake the trees to death, and all these leaves and acorns are on the ground. And I guess living on the corner, I see more than anybody else. And I just wondered why it takes them a month or more to come and sweep the streets, which they used to sweep more often.
Your Honor, yes, Your Honor. I know we've had the every other week policy for a number of years now, but I will certainly check with DPS staff and report back on why the delay now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Meeting is open to the public. Would anyone else like to address City Council on any subject? Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Wayne Peters, property owner at 30223 Longfellow. Mr. Mayor, Chief Haynes, supporting council members, just like to make a brief statement. On behalf of our entire family, we would like to use this public forum to thank you for listening to your residents' concerns and taking the necessary action to move forward in addressing the issues raised at the meeting of August 9th. We are a family of compassion, and we knew going into this there were going to be no winners, no matter of the result. I know we all hope and pray that the actions taken regarding this difficult situation will help with the health and safety of all parties involved. We look forward to assisting you in any way we can for any ongoing work that needs to be done so that we can get to an expected resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Would anyone else like to address City Council? Thank you. Next on the agenda, C1, Communications, a request to use Civic Center Park from Jennifer DePerna. Is there a report, Mr. Myers?
Yes, Your Honor. Jennifer DePerna has requested permission to use Civic Center Park in Pavilion C for an awareness walk for a blood disorder called Factor V Laden on Sunday, September 25th, 2016 from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Staff and I recommend the council approve the requested use of the park in Pavilion C, subject to compliance with the council's policy on uniform insurance requirements for special events.
Thank you. What's the wish of City Council?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Corbett?
Sir, I move that the council grant permission for the use of the Civic Center Park. What's a proper Factor V Leading Awareness Week? Is that the way to say that?
Yes, Your Honor. As I understand, it's a blood disorder.
Right, yeah, okay. Subject to the compliance on uniform requirements. I hate to bring up the subject, but I didn't see a waiver request. Did we get one?
Your Honor, no. There was no requested fee waiver.
All right. We can circle back on that. We could always refund a
You can add it.
application.
You can add it to your motion.
All right, then I'll add it. I'll include a waiver on this one. Do we, you know what, well, this isn't the time to do it. I'll make my motion, we'll get a support, and then I'll ask my question.
Is
So
there,
I move it.
is there a second?
Your Honor.
Mr. Bliss?
Support.
All right, the motion by Councilman Corbett, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Bliss, is to approve the request by Jennifer DePerna for the awareness walk. Approve that request to use Civic Center Park and give a waiver of the fees, subject to the city's policy on uniform insurance requirements. Discussion, please.
Yeah, the question I had was, maybe this is for the clerk, if I represent an organization such as this one and I come in and apply to use, and I assume it's your department, not community development, right? Do I, in the normal course of things, provide you with anything that shows that I'm a nonprofit or?
Your Honor. That actually goes to the Parks and Recs Department, DPS. The application goes through them. I just put it on the agenda.
Oh.
But,
well, then I'll look to your left then.
Yes.
Hi, Mr. Myers. What's the story on that?
Yes, sir. Yes, they are asked for a homeowners policy or nonprofit organization policy, but they are asked at the time, I believe, of the application, whether this is private, nonprofit, corporate, at the time of application with DPS.
But do they necessarily provide you with the state, I think, gives something. It's been a long time since I incorporated a nonprofit.
501c3?
Yeah, that thing. Is that normally provided to you, or could it be provided to you?
Your Honor, I don't believe it's normally provided, but could they? They would be asked for it, certainly.
Okay. Well, I'll stick with my motion, but this actually, obviously, as Council's aware, circles back on an issue that Mayor Pro Tem and I talked about before. So my motion is, I'm settled and I'm supported. And we'll get back on it.
Any further discussion?
Your Honor.
Mr. Bliss?
Just because it has been brought up, I would really like to see in the approval process for these special events done by nonprofits, if we could amend or edit the request form to include that if they can designate that they're a nonprofit, then we would issue a waiver, the waiver release, because it's difficult, because I feel that we've had 2 consecutive nonprofit events that didn't know to ask the question. And if we look back in the history of all of the organizations that have had fee waivers, there's a lot of overlap. I mean, the Lanphier School District requests the fee waivers, the Madison School District requests the fee waivers, and then a couple of our community groups have requested those. But I think people who don't normally do events in the city don't know. So if we could amend that particular form to plainly state that if they are a nonprofit utilizing these, that we would waive, that the council would waive the fee, or at least council would vote on waiving the fee, that would be absolutely wonderful, because I think that cuts a lot of this dialogue out. We don't risk not giving a fee waiver to an organization that deserves it, nor do we risk giving one to an organization that is maybe a private entity, or something like that. So if we could just amend the form, make it clear, and then to Councilman Corbett's point, if we could ask for a copy of their 501c3, that would be sufficient for me.
Mr. Myers?
Your Honor, yes, I would ask for council's overall direction with regard to that.
Well, not every nonprofit is a 501c3 organization recognized by the IRS for tax purposes. There are different types of 501cs, but even there are some nonprofits licensed in Michigan who never even request that type of IRS status. So there is a lot of different flavors of nonprofits.
Mr. Mayor? But I think to the Pro Tem's question, it could be, I mean, we would eventually put the burden of proof on the nonprofit or the charitable group to say it's available if you, and you should demonstrate it, for instance, a 501c or some other proof. And if you can't, then maybe we need to know that too.
Your Honor, let me suggest that staff and I go back, research, and write a report that comes back to a future council agenda for formal direction with regard to the waiver.
Deal.
Yeah. Good idea. Any further discussion on this request to use Civic Center Park and Pavilion C? All right, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next on the agenda, we have already discussed D1, so we'll go to D2, which is a report from Community Development Director.
Yes, Your Honor, and this pertains to the 2016 Oakland County Brownfield Consortium Agreement. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency has announced the award of a $600,000 EPA 2016 Brownfield Coalition Assessment Grant to the Oakland County Brownfield Coalition, which is comprised of Oakland County and the cities of Farmington Hills, Ferndale, Hazel Park, Pontiac, Southfield, and Madison Heights. Assessment grant dollars provide the direct funding to Madison Heights businesses and property owners to conduct initial environmental assessment activities through Phase 1, Phase 2, and a baseline environmental assessment. This is the third successful assessment grant for the coalition. Presented for Council's consideration tonight is the proposed Oakland County Brownfield Consortium Agreement between Oakland County and the city. Through this cooperative agreement, the city and other members of the coalition will each receive $60,000, with the remaining $240,000 in grants to be used in other Oakland County communities, and funds will be available this fall. The purpose of this agreement is to delineate the relationship and responsibilities between the county and the city as it relates to the coalition assessment grant. This interlocal agreement must be approved by City Council prior to any release of grant money. It essentially mirrors the same interlocal agreement the council executed back in 2009 for a coalition grant. Importantly, no city funds are required directly or as a match, and all grants are dispersed directly from the county to the property owner. Staff and I recommend the council approve the agreement and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign on behalf of the city.
Thank you. What's the wish of City Council? Can I have a motion to approve the agreement and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign on behalf of the city?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Corbett? Thank you. Is there a second?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Gettings?
Second.
Any discussion on this item? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next on the agenda is Report D3, again from the Community Development Director.
Yes, Your Honor. Oakland County recently announced a new local road improvement matching fund pilot program to assist local units of government with needed local road improvements. The program is based on a minimum 50-50 split between the city and the county. Whitcomb, from John R. to DeQuinder, has been on our priority repair list for a number of years, and we have been addressing critical repairs on a yearly basis as funding has permitted. When the county grant opportunity arose, staff immediately applied for county funding to add to the already budgeted $100,000 for the 2016 Whitcomb sectional repair project. On August 31st, the Oakland County Board of Commissioners approved the full $37,716 in matching grant funds for the Whitcomb project, which brings the total project cost to $137,716. And this will result in sectional repairs to Whitcomb at the intersection of DeQuinder. Funds are budgeted and available for this project, and construction is scheduled for September and October 2016. Staff and I recommend that City Council approve the cost participation agreement and authorize the mayor to sign on behalf of the city. And I would also like to acknowledge County Commissioner Gary McGilvery for all of his help and leadership in helping to procure this grant for us. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. What's the wish of City Council?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Corbett?
I'm on a roll tonight. I would move that the council approve the participation agreement and authorize, this is of course related to the development of the road improvement plan through the county, and authorize the mayor to sign on behalf of the community.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Gettings?
Second.
Thank you. The motion was made by Councilman Corbett, seconded by Councilman Getting, to approve the cost participation agreement, approving the local road improvement program, and authorizing the mayor to sign on behalf of the city. Is there any discussion? Yeah, thank you to our County Commissioner, Gary McGilvery, former mayor and councilman. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The motion carries. Item E tonight, there's nothing to discuss, so we'll go on to item F, bid awards and purchases. One item, F1, Police Department replacement vehicles.
Staff and I recommend that council approve the replacement purchase of one 2016 Ford Police Interceptor sedan at a unit cost of $26,867 and one 2017 Ford Interceptor utility vehicle at a unit cost of $28,969. Both vehicles will be purchased through the Macomb County Cooperative Purchasing Program for a total amount of $55,836, and this replacement is made in accordance with the city's vehicle replacement program and budgeted through the State Drug Forfeiture Fund.
Okay, what's the wish of City Council?
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Scott.
I move for council to approve the replacement purchase of one 2016 Ford Police Interceptor sedan at a unit cost of $26,867 and one 2017 Ford Interceptor utility vehicle at a unit cost of $28,969.
Thank you. Is there support?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Gettings?
Support.
Thank you. Motion was made by Councilwoman Scott, seconded by Councilman Gettings, to approve the replacement purchase of one 2016 Ford Police Interceptor sedan at a unit cost of $26,867 and one 2017 Interceptor utility vehicle at a unit cost of $28,969. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next on the agenda, item G, nothing for tonight. Item H, nothing for tonight. We go to minutes. Can I have approval of the minutes from August 18th, 2016, please?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Corbett?
I move to approve the minutes from August 18th as printed.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Soltis?
Second, please.
Any discussion on the motion to approve the minutes as printed from August 18th, 2016? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Can I have a motion regarding the minutes from August 22nd?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
As printed?
As printed.
Is there a second? Mr. Soltis.
Second, please.
Thank you very much. Motion made by Councilman Corbett, seconded by Councilman Soltis to adopt as printed the meeting minutes from the regular meeting of August 22nd, 2016. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next on the agenda are appointments to boards and commissions. There are no mayor's nominations. Any nominations from city council members? Okay, there are no appointments tonight, no nominations tonight. So before we adjourn, are we going into executive session?
We are already in executive session before and we recessed from it, so we voted on it already. It's just a matter of indicating that we're going back into executive session.
So if you're watching, and for those of you here, City Council is going to leave the council chambers, and we're going to resume a closed session that we continued earlier in the evening.
Mr. Mayor, just a suggestion procedurally, you might want to clear the round table first.
That's a great idea. Okay.
Not that I have anything or anybody has anything that's
That's a good idea.
The swell to report, but
So before City Council leaves the chambers to resume their closed session, I'd like to hear any closing comments, and I'd like to begin with Councilman Corbett.
why, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Two quick items. One is just a notice. We will be resuming our Fridays from 1 to 3 at the library office hours, council office hours. If there's a member of the public who wants to stop by and talk about whatever, something involving the city, we will be there. I'll certainly be there. We do occasionally get some guest appearances, and if there's anybody in particular you'd like to talk with, give the manager's office a call, and they can always make the arrangements with the appropriate council member or mayor. I just wanted to take notice of the passing of the son of an old friend of mine. I've known them since high school. But the Gibson family lost their son, Sergeant Larry Gibson, retired a few years ago, 2, 3, 4 years ago. And his son, who, as I recall, had some military service in his resume, passed away suddenly. So our sympathy is to him and Sally. I know his father passed away a year or two ago, Harry, who had been very active. It's a family that has been just service-oriented in the community, between Harry's service on the school board over the years, certainly with his wife, and in Larry's service on the police department for all those years. It's a real tragedy, and I'm sure all of our thoughts go to them. That's all I have this evening, sir.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Bliss, do you have any comments?
Yes, Your Honor. I just wanted to share with the public what occurred over the weekend. For the first time in decades, the Lamfair Drama Club asked some of the alumni like myself to come and grace the stage one more time to be able to raise money to send a group of amazing students to the Edinburgh, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but to a fringe festival in Scotland. Very prestigious, and the students work their tails off to get there, but it's expensive. And the parents are working really hard to try to fundraise as much money as they can to get the students there. And so they thought it was a good idea to get all of us old people out and perform. And it actually was great. The show was amazing. More than 40 other alumni, including our distinguished Mayor Hartwell, were all on stage. And it was just a wonderful experience. Not so much because of the show. I mean, the show was amazing. Got rave reviews. You can take my word for it. But what was really great was to be able to spend time with those students. I have never seen, never in my entire life, I have never seen so many hardworking young adults in one place. I mean, it was phenomenal to watch how hard they are working towards this cause to be able to get to Scotland to perform. And it was an amazing experience. I wanted to congratulate Rick and Judy Lewis, who put a lot of time and effort to make this show happen. They directed the show. This is outside of the scope of what they would normally do. It's an extra show that they added into the year to be able to fundraise. And so many volunteers and so many businesses in the city of Madison Heights contributed to make that a success. And they raised thousands of dollars to send those kids to Scotland. And I'm proud to have been a part of it, and I want to thank everybody involved because it was an amazing experience, and I think the students got as much out of it as we did. That's it, Your Honor.
Thank you. Councilman Gettings.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, just want to say how sorry we are to the Gibson family for the loss of Larry's youngster, and I hope everything goes good for him in the future. And I was able, like I said earlier, to go down and look at Monroe Park, and that is a beautiful park for 2.5 to 5-year-olds is what the sign says when you first walk in. But the equipment is beautiful. The like wood chip or whatever they have on the ground to soften a fall if you were to fall. It's enclosed so your kids can't run out in the street, and it has a beautiful park shelter too. So for anybody who doesn't know, it's right down there on Alger and Dallas, and I should say Dartmouth and Dallas, and it's a beautiful park if you ever get a chance to go down there. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. City Attorney, Mr. Sherman?
Nothing, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Manager, Mr. Myers?
Yes, Your Honor. I too want to extend my sympathies to the Gibson family on their loss. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. City Clerk, Ms. Prince?
I don't know if anybody noticed, but we have an election coming up. So if anybody's interested in getting an absentee ballot for the presidential election, please feel free to contact our office. You can call us at 248-583-0826. You can get an application online. I'll encourage anybody who is eligible to vote absentee and avoid the line on Election Day. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Clark?
Nothing.
Thank you. Councilwoman Scott, welcome back.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I would like to thank all of the individuals who reached out to me following my recent back surgery with their care and their concern. Your notes, your contacts meant so much to me, and it gave me a really positive attitude for recovery. It was the best medicine in the world. I would like to say I apologize to the Peters family for not being here those 2 evenings you were here. I'm sympathized with all of the concerns you've had and the problems you've dealt with for a long, long time. Nobody should live with that concern, and you have a right to live in a peaceful surrounding with peaceful neighbors and those that keep us going. And I feel that your compassion was very controlled, and I thank you for your professionalism and the fact that you were very concerned about what was going on and that you worked well with our city administration. And I hope that that just continues to be good news for you in your situation. And my condolences also to the Gibson family. I had the pleasure of getting to know the Gibson's family when I was their wedding photographer. And Brian and Sally, I'm sorry, not Brian, Brian's their son, but Larry, Sergeant Larry and Sally had a tremendous loss today, and my sympathies go out to them today. And hopefully that the God will show them the way to comfort and in loss. And thank you very much for all of your help. Oh.
Thank you. Councilman Soltis?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm glad Councilwoman Scott's back. I was getting lonely there for a minute, and I'm glad you're doing well. I can sympathize because I had not an extensive back surgery like you did, but I'm there with you. So
That's good.
I want to thank City Manager Myers for your help on the fence issue, and of course the chief. I really appreciate everything you did, and that's all. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, please.
I forgot something that's awful. That my husband and I, Jack, recently celebrated our 20th wedding anniversary last week, and I wanted to send a call out to my husband, who has been a wonderful doctor to me as well as a caretaker, and I couldn't live without him, and the 20 years that I've spent have been amazing, and I appreciate him so much and love him very much. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have any comments. So the meeting's technically still open. That's it. Council meeting. I checked the clock, but I think it's still September 12th, 2016. This regular meeting is reconvened. First, can I please have a motion to excuse Councilman Corbett from the remainder of the meeting?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Gettings, is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Soltis, second. Any discussion to excuse Mr. Corbett? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Can I please have a motion to accept the recommendation of the Assistant City Attorney regarding the subject of the closed session?
Your Honor.
Mr. Bliss?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Gettings?
So moved.
Any discussion from staff on the wording of that motion?
No.
Okay. Any discussion on this motion? The motion is to accept the recommendation of the Assistant City Attorney regarding the subject of a closed session. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Is there any further business before the City Council? Hearing none, I adjourn this meeting. Good night. Thank you.